President Biden doubling down on his debunked claim that Republicans want to sunset Social Security and Medicare. Watch this.
Many of you have seen we've had a spirited debate last night with my Republican friend. They seem shocked when I raised the plans of some of their members and their caucus to cut Social Security. A lot of Republicans, their dream is to cut Social Security, Medicare. It's your dream, but I'm going to, my veto pen, make it a nightmare.
Biden on the attack, despite introducing legislation to sunset all federal programs when he was a Delaware senator. Here he is on the floor back in 1995. Watch this.
I argued that we should freeze federal spending. I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
Joining me now is New York Congresswoman, House Ways and Means Committee member Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, it's great to see you as always. Thanks for being here. You introduced a resolution on Tuesday reaffirming Republicans' commitment to these programs, and yet the president keeps saying that the Republicans want to cut them.
Yeah, can you imagine if the mainstream media gave Joe Biden the same kind of media review that they give George Santos and other people? I mean, it is incredible the amount of duplicity that is coming from this president in terms of lying. We want to preserve Social Security. And Maria, I hate to disclose this, but I just became eligible for Social Security last week. So it's really important to me, and it's really important to people in my district who have spent their entire lives paying into Social Security, some like me, even before they were eligible. And many of my employees in our small manufacturing business also have been paying into Social Security for many years.
Yeah.
We want to make sure it's there. And we know that some of the burdens on Social Security as people are coming of age need to be sustainable. And we want to make it better. We want to improve it. And actually, the Republicans, and under President Trump, we actually helped Social Security. But unfortunately, due to bad policy like Obamacare, which is a drain on Medicare, a drain on all the health care programs, you're making Social Security less valuable. And then add in the inflation. Inflation is a tax on all Americans, particularly those people who are earning their Social Security after all those years and collecting it. So, yeah, Biden is, I mean, I just, again, one of your guests alluded to earlier on your show, and by the way, I love it. I rely on it every day. You know, politicians don't understand what's happening. Well, that's true in a lot of cases, but I can't think of anyone worse to represent this nation than a 50-year career politician who doesn't sign the front of a paycheck, who doesn't know what it's like every day to face your employees and try to keep them going and look at families and look at your employees as families, not as the enemy. And that's the big mistake that a lot of Democrats miss, especially career politicians like our president.
Well, thank you for that. But look, you know what? It's also disingenuous to act as if everything's fine with Social Security and these programs. I mean, we're facing $31.5 trillion in debt. We are right up against the debt ceiling. We've already breached it. There's going to be a showdown in terms of what to cut. And I'm looking at a fact sheet from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Congresswoman, and Maya McGinnis says that the Social Security Trust Fund will be insolvent by 2035. That's just 12 years from now, when today's 55-year-olds reach the normal retirement age and today's youngest retirees turn 74. So, I mean, it's clear that there's an issue. The Republicans have said, you included, we're not going to cut it right now, but it's disingenuous to think that we could just sit here and not do anything about all of this reckless spending.
Yeah, well, look, we've wasted so much money. We had a hearing yesterday in the Ways and Means Committee about fraud, abuse, and waste, and just the unemployment insurance part of the pandemic response. Not to mention the massive fraud, abuse, and waste under the PPP, under the Small Business Administration's we put so much in the hands of bureaucrats, and that's what a lot of the problem is. Government has certain functions that it does well, but when you overstress the system, put too much in the hands of bureaucrats, whether it's on the federal level or a state like New York, which is just overbloated with bureaucracy, they make mistakes, things happen, and we lose and waste taxpayer money. That's why I'd like to see us streamline the system. Social Security is vitally important. We need to preserve and protect it because it is a system where it goes directly out of your paycheck into a government account, and we want to make sure it's there for our future and our future generations. We want to make it sustainable, and that's what we're trying to do, is preserving and protecting it, not leaving it so it just runs out in 12 years this is the Democrats' irresponsible policies are what have led us to this.
Well, I mean, then the only answer Joe Biden seems to have is to look for tax cheats under every rock. The IRS could be now coming for tips. Okay? If the administration has its way, the administration is proposing that the IRS crack down on the restaurant industry to monitor the cash tips that employees take home. What a nightmare is that for somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck, relying on tips, Congresswoman? You told the Daily Mail, quote, "Now it's clear that the hands of big government may be scheming to reach further into the tip jars of hardworking Americans, even by possibly attacking the waiters and waitresses already working paycheck to paycheck." Congresswoman, this is incredible. How much money does he think he's going to get by attacking those hardworking waiters and waitresses who are living on tips?
Well, it's unconscionable, and you know this numbers. If you tax the rich all the way to the end, 42% of our federal tax revenues come from the 1%. But to go after waitresses, I was a waitress. I remember when I was a waitress, I made $1 an hour, and then I relied on my tips, and I couldn't wait to get a job. I went and cleaned hotel rooms, and it was a $5 fixed minimum wage, and I thought that was great. But this is the kind of thing where you're not going to solve our budget problems by going after hardworking Americans. And the restaurant industry was really crushed during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Unemployment insurance, $8 billion was stolen from literally small businesses across New York.
Terrible.
We talked about that in Ways and Means. The state of New York needs to make these businesses whole. They were forced to shut down, and now they're forced to pay the price, and they continue to expand benefits. And I say benefits in New York to a point where we can't afford it any longer.
Yeah, you're right.
And this is the same. I say the perfect incubator. Look what to do, not to do at what New York State policy is. That's what the federal government shouldn't be doing. And unfortunately, the leaders on the Democratic side in the House of Representatives came from the New York State Assembly, and the leader on the Senate side, Chuck Schumer, came from the New York State Assembly. They don't know how to operate fiscally conservative or fiscally responsible budgets. This is why we need the majority right now with Republicans. And I think Kevin McCarthy's leadership right now, we are standing up to the Democrats. And I'm really, really proud of our Republicans for sticking together right now. So far, it's looking really good this year.
Well, look, the border is another issue for New York, right? And Todd Pyro, you've covered this so well. But I just want to point out that 4 men were arrested yesterday in connection to a fentanyl lab that was disguised as a car rental in Houston. Okay, they're out on bail already. Texas DPS raided the building late last month. They found possible fentanyl precursors from China and other drugs. They believe the lab is linked to the Mexican cartels. So, Todd, this just tells you that fentanyl is being produced in America, not just Mexico. This is a Houston lab making fentanyl.
And to that point, Congresswoman, we had a guest on my show yesterday whose son died of fentanyl poisoning, and I asked her point blank, did you hear anything in the State of the Union that made you confident that President Biden is addressing this problem and is on it? And she said no. What about you? Did you hear anything that gave you any confidence that we are going to actually do something tangible to stop the fentanyl poisoning of America?
89 seconds.
I didn't hear anything that was actually action-based. I'd like to see action items out of the State of the Union. I mean, look, the State of the Union was this is all a dog and pony show for Democrats and what they want to hear about taxing the rich and spending more money, not about real solutions. And the scourge of fentanyl is really a tragedy. So many people, affects every life. I don't know of anyone who hasn't been affected by this in my life. So no answers there, no crackdown on criminals. Our state government had an opportunity to actually give a dangerousness standard to judges to put people in jail to stop this cashless bail system. But you know what's happening around liberal states, and they're following New York all around the country. It's a disaster. If you want to see the crime rates skyrocket in your state, follow New York. And it's really the wrong message and the wrong plan, for the future and for keeping our communities safe.
Wow. Congresswoman, thanks so much for your leadership. We'll be watching your important work. We appreciate you joining me this morning.